And we're live. Forgot to turn on the light. Okay, we're live. Today we're going to be talking general magic theory and talking about sorcery self-defense. Just gonna share it a few places real quick here before we get started. Give everyone a chance to catch up. Whoops. What is going on here? Okay, send that here. Okay. Hey, how's it going, Kira? Glad to see you. We're starting with the dark sour today. I really enjoyed that last week, so went with that again. Background's a little disturbed. Get rid of that. Okay, so Max had me thinking on the last live where they were talking about how they had been attacked, that I've been neglecting the self-defense aspect of my channel for a while now. And so I thought perhaps we'd talk about that tonight. The hammer and the thumbnail I don't have with me tonight, but we have other things to talk about, and other tools that are used that are more magically related anyways. Oh, I forgot something else we'll be talking about tonight. Thank you, love. We'll also be doing an Hey, Black Unigriffin, glad to see you. We're going to be talking about sorcery self-defense tonight. And just basic magical theory as well, because well, I don't know if I can take full time talking about just the sorcery self-defense stuff, so we'll talk about some basic magical theory. But Max's experience last week had me thinking about the sorcery self-defense aspects of my channel and how I've been neglecting that lately. And there's a lot of important stuff there. Some of it is literal physical self-defense that, well, I consider it sorcery because that's where I got picked up. Most of it was from my past life memory. When I was in my old apartment and before I practiced, every time I fell asleep, I kept on saying a lady in white was not a good time. Got a lot of interesting results lately. Solstice midsummer stuff going on. Indeed. Solstice is well, mine and Felix's big anniversary is when we tied the knot. We did 3 marriages. So tomorrow we're going to be doing like anniversary stuff. Okay. So I think we will start with your more magical discussions of self-defense. Kira mentioned I'm going to read that again. When I was in my old apartment and before I practiced, every time I fell asleep, I kept on saying a lady in white. Kept on seeing a lady in white. It was not a good time. Yes, there are things that we can do about this. And good evening, Romstead. Good to see you. There are things that we can do about this with the unwanted visitors, spirits, things of that nature, and then we're going to work our way up from there. So, I've talked a bit about banishing in previous videos, and we'll get to that. But we're going to start with the most basic idea, and that is basic shielding. Um, my mom used to have a lot of trouble with what she called angels coming to steal her memories. Now, we can debate on what exactly they were and the nature of angels, but that's kind of outside of the point. My mom had beings that were coming to her and stealing little bits of her memory, and she didn't want them to do that anymore. So she started with a very basic idea of a bubble. Hello, my love. It's good to see you, Felix. Um, yeah. So she started with a very basic idea of just literally a bubble. And what I mean by this is when she would go to sleep at night, she would imagine a bubble inflating up around her. And it's a very simple technique. You just it's basically you're basically creating a circle around yourself with this bubble. It's a bubble that nothing can be allowed inside without your consent. Was there ever a divination done on these angels? Yes. There was stuff done on the angels for me to see who they were and what was going on before I gave her the advice to cast the bubble. And what I saw was exactly what she described. I saw white light angels, wings with the feathers, just like you would see in a like a cartoon movie of heaven or something. Not like all the eyeballs, but the classic white winged angels. Um, I don't know where the realities intersect with all that kind of stuff because again, I know other people that have had very good luck working with angels. I myself have had very good luck working with Azazel. But when it comes with flap wings, when it comes to angels in general, I um I have problems, and my mother did as well. We, in fact, well, especially after she left Christianity. Well, after I left Christianity, and then she left very soon afterwards, we got rid of all the angel figurines in the whole house. She threw out all the angels and the Christmas stuff. She threw out angels and everything. But that was still what we saw coming. That was still what we saw coming to remove the memories. Now, from my understanding of things, this has to do with actually, we're going to be talking about the Horde some tonight. But both my mother and I are members of the Horde. And angels, at least at that time, were seen as part of the Christian faith, part of what was essentially the thing that we were working with the Horde to get at, well, what we did on May 5th of 2012. So in the meantime, angels are seen as a security risk. This is a threat. This is something that we see coming in. And I couldn't directly affect it myself, so I had the teacher to create this bubble. Yes, that's what exactly what they did. They would come and take her memories. And the bubble was just that. It was a bubble. And then after a while, she started incorporating other elements. And this is really all it takes to create one of these bubbles is thought projection. Like you're saying here about the about how the angels may have been thought projections, which is which is quite possible. But the bubble itself as well is a thought projection. It is just that, a visualization of a bubble. And then from there, once you've gotten used to the idea of creating the bubble around you as you go to sleep, if this doesn't feel strong enough, or if things start to push their way through that, visualization is what we're up to here. Yes, angels can often be, at least in my experience, flatterers. I we will do a live on divination real soon. There's actually a lot to talk about there. But we that's how this get back to what I was talking about. The protection spell of this nature is very much just visualization. And it can go beyond just the bubble. Like eventually she began to visualizing a big weaving of vines and thorns that would come up around her and grow sentient flowers on it that would keep watch and allow things through that she wanted to talk to. Because if anything that was of the kind or the horde or any type of fey beings, she very much wanted them to be able to get through, which is why we went with the visualization that I'm talking about with the rose vines and the flowers watching, because that program you can easily program that to watch for threats but allow through things that belong in the briar patch. What I do is that you always use your intent and not the form of the being, but rather, sense them like similar how the Terminator from the movie Robot scans humans and as well other stuff. Basically sensing them like how a robot senses or scans. Yes, the protection spells that I had over the house in general was very much based on intent. But the trouble with doing a spell where a being's intent is what decides if it can get in or out, it some beings don't feel like they're doing you any harm. When you filter for malignant intent, you can have certain things coming through that, at least in their mind, they're helping you. They're doing right by you. I mean, in Mormonism, they have the idea even of, oh my gosh, I forgot, blood atonement, which is the belief in Mormonism that if a holy person who is very holy and Mormon sheds your blood and it hits the ground, then you're go to heaven. Yes, for your own good. So by this doctrine, if someone that was way high up in the Mormon church were to kill you, it'd be for your own good if you were going to go to hell before that. So they would be able to walk through a shield of intent just fine because their intent is to save you. Yeah. So intent works to some degree, but there are ways around it. Which is why my mother's developed sentient flowers that could watch and see what was coming through. The bubble did work for the angels specifically, but there were other things that came later that didn't get stopped by that. In fact, even the flowers with the roses had some problems because there was a point where we were actually, well, I've talked about goblins on this channel, but there was another point before that where we were having some interaction with goblins, and they were trying to give my mom offerings. Even they were actually trying to do good, but they kept putting these coins through that were like flooding her whole area when she was sleeping. She'd just keep getting covered by gold coins, so we had to do something to keep that out. But I'm getting off track. The primary point here is about the creating of the bubble. Yeah. And that through visualization, and you can use that intent filter. I'm not saying it's not a good filter, but it sometimes needs to have things beyond that to cover the things that might be able to slip through that crack. So, for a very basic protection, you can just create a bubble. Beyond that, I'm not saying you have to go with roses and thorns. That might not be your groove. It is whatever you feel keeps you safe. at first. And then if things start getting through, you can learn to tailor these things over time. Now, once you have the whole thing set up the way that you want, it is best then to cast a sigil or create a sigil that will lock that shield into place. Create that as a permanent form that you can then visualize at night as you're going to sleep. And the thing about a shell like this, you don't need to be asleep for this to work. Yeah? You do not need to be asleep to cast this type of spell. You can imagine this bubble and thorns coming around you at any time. And it should help keep away people that you're trying to avoid. And especially most of the time, just one to keep away people with ill intent. Works pretty good when you're talking about normal people under normal circumstances. Now, if you're walking around in a small town in Utah with a pentacle on or, LGBTQ plus flag, might not work. The person coming to do you harm may feel that it is for your own good. I don't mean to pick on the Mormons. I'm sure there are other monotheistic religions where the people would, well, I know any of your monotheistic religions will behave in this way. I mean, look what's going on in I don't want to get into the whole Israel Palestine thing right now. But I mean, in both cases, actually both sides of those are mostly monotheist, I suppose. Islam's and Islamic people and Israel. But anyways, again, not something I really want to get into in this live. But I will say I'm against genocide. Say that loud and clear. Okay, so now we're up to the idea of creating a sigil for your protection spell. This is a way to lock that into a form. Create a sigil from the things that you have visualized. Now, a lot of the times with a sigil, I'm talking about using letters to create a statement of, create a statement of intent, use letters from it. That's not going to work in this case, right? You've visualized this thing. You've created this thing. You've made it what you want it to be. And I suppose if you really wanted, you could then write out a description of all the different things and then pick whatever letters you were going to use from the entire description and make something from that. That's not the best way, in my opinion. The best way is to just choose a shape while you're casting it, while you're going to sleep at night. Ask yourself, to create a sigil to represent that. And then during the dream, while you are protected under this, you should be finding a sigil. And if you're not lucid enough to do that, then another possibility is, if you're not lucid, if you can't get lucid enough in a dream to create a sigil, that is not a problem. Just when you wake up, hey, Warden Mark, good to see you. When you wake up the next morning, you're in that space in between. Ask for the sigil again then. You know what I mean? So, don't pick a night where you're waking up with the alarm clock. Unless you hit the snooze bar and then in that in-between space. That actually might work. But, that liminal space is you're just waking up and you're conscious, but your eyes are still closed and you're still there, asleep, but not. Ask for the sigil again in that moment. And then write down what you get. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. It just matters that it's a shape, that it's a form, something you can remember. And barring that, another option would be to let's see. I'll get to that question in just a minute, March of Time, because that is a very good question. Um, would be to draw out. You don't have to be a good artist because you're going to render this down. Just draw out a kind of sketch of what it looks like and then render that down. Simplify it until you have a sigil, or just pick something. Just pick a sigil that you think looks to you like to represent the thing. Doesn't really matter in this case. You're creating a place, you're creating a placeholder. You're creating a placeholder for a form for you to create. And then you can visualize just that sigil when you go to sleep. Or if you want, make a more controlled copy, draw one out, put it under your pillow. If ideally, if like you're really struggling in this area, you can make a dream catcher, put something with the sigil in the center of the dream catcher. And when you're making the dream catcher and you're tying each knot, visualize it as creating that same web bubble of thorns and whatever it is that you need, that you feel you need, into the dream catcher, because that's what those really are. Yeah, this is something that one of the few areas, well, not one of the few areas, but this is an area I feel very comfortable to speak on, because it's quite possible one of my ancestors came up with the idea of the dream catcher. Yes, I know my skin is very pale, but descendancy wise, probably somebody in my line that came up with the whole thing in the first place. So, anyways, I got a little off track of what my real point was there. It doesn't matter. Dream catchers are a portal. They are a way of filtering energy through a room, and they're not just for sleeping. Yeah, these things were made for many different purposes. And it's actually kind of, well, it's like advanced thread work. And there is secrets with the different knots that you tie that I'm not entirely privy to. Despite all the things I just said about being my direct line, I never met my great grandfather while he was alive, and few of his brothers and people that I have met that knew who I was supposed to be, they had other things that were more important, I think. Okay. Anyway, we're gonna get off since you're of the Horde, do you think that there are other groups like the Horde who dealt with entities who have dominion over a religion or region? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In my paradigm, the Horde is something that is like a multiverse type thing. And their general interest in our general interest in this reality, is the spreading of free will. So no matter how that comes, no matter what it is preventing that, the Horde will do what it can to get involved in stopping it. But there are definitely other groups that, religions battle all the time. Different gods have problems with each other. That's kind of, and especially ones that seek worship and dominion. The Old Testament is full of these stories of this god fighting with that god. Well, of gods aren't real, and then not proving, but claiming the other gods aren't real and trying to prove that. Of course, where they're the ones writing the book, they win all the time. Not always. That's the thing, yeah. And while I was Christian, this was one of the first things that made me go, what? Jesus gets his ass kicked. Jesus gets his ass kicked by Legion, right? Right in the New Testament there. Jesus is trying to enter a new city. There's a beggar on the side of the road. He goes up, he tries to exorcise the guy, and tells the Legion to get out of there, and Legion tells him no, no. And if he was this omnipotent God of all, he would have been able to kick Legion right out of that pig, right? But he can't, or that person, but he can't. And then finally, Legion's like, all right, if you tell everybody I'm going into them pigs over there, you tell everybody I'm going to cast you into them pigs, you're casting me into them pigs, I'll go. As long as you tell everybody that's what you're doing. And it's Legion agreed, right? This wasn't Jesus forced Legion out. This was Legion told Jesus, I'll do it if you do this. So Jesus is like, yeah, he falls for it. Jesus fell for it. Because what happens next? All them Legion goes into them pigs, and then the pigs run into the sea, and Legion drowns all the pigs, and Jesus is forbidden entry to the city. And that's what that story is about. Jesus was trying to enter a city, and Legion stopped him from entering. That was the first thing that made me question when I was like 7 and I read that. I was like, wait a minute. Jesus just got his ass kicked. Just got his ass handed to him in power and intelligence. I'm part of a group that's more or less aligned with the nature spirits as well as other spirits. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, I got a bit off track there. I did want to answer that more thoroughly. Absolutely. There's the Fae in general are very much doing everything they can to protect the nature and natural environment. And they're actually getting stronger now that, to be clear, the Horde don't give a shit about religions. I mean, they give a shit about anything that's trying to prevent other people from thinking for themselves. But religion in general isn't the issue. Do whatever you want. That's the whole point. That's their whole groove, right? But there's the Fae and there's the Awa alliance I was talking about before. That is still a thing. There are a lot of spirits that actually, through their work, especially in with people in the Caribbean, there's been a lot of interplay there. And they're actually more interested in politics than religion, a lot of those beings, but they've made deals about helping certain people be free that they intend to keep. But they also intend other people to keep the people that have made these deals to keep their end of it as well. Oh, hey, Gavin, good to see you. Oh, you're up early this year. Okay. Or this year. I don't think summer solstice in any tradition is a year thing, but you're up early this morning. This is awesome. Is there crossover membership between the groups? Like, are some Fae Horde members? This is a very good question, Romstead. And yes, there are several Horde members that are also Fae beings or came from a Fae origin. That's the thing about being a Horde member. Sometimes you still keep old habits, but one of the things that is kind of left at the door is race of any kind. Once you fully become a member of the Horde, that's one of the things that's left behind, because that's a limiting factor, right? That's a limiting factor. Oh, I'm Fae, I'm human, I'm a wolf. You can be those things, or you can have those things. You can have those forms. But when you get to that point, that you're able to fully agree to the concurrences that the Horde requires to become contracted, then you're leaving all that behind. in that moment. Now it's all levels, right? Like I still consider myself all of these things. My mother very much considered herself kind, very much considered herself fey. But there was also a horde member, which is again, there's levels. When you're dealing with the horde, you can even sometimes in some of these things we speak on behalf of the or in favor of, not on behalf. That's a weird way. That wouldn't be the right way to phrase that. Um, you can speak with concern or in favor of certain beings and their needs, but once you become a horde member, what's the horde? We are going to be talking about this tonight. So I talk quite a bit about the audience. We're going to start there because that's the most important part. In the center of the all thing, as opposed to the nothing, the point where all things are connected and all are part of the same weave. There's a moment outside of everything, outside of time, where all of our perceptions, all of us, are individual but connected. And this is the audience. This is the moment from which we are all essentially watching the show. Everyone gets to the audience eventually, even those beings that desire to have themselves be the ultimate. Even those beings that want to conquer eventually wind up part of the audience. And that's how we know how things wind up. Because the audience will always be. But within the audience, there are factions. There are factions that essentially are interested in watching a different kind of show. And even at that level, there are people that are, well, below that level, still problems and want to dominate entire realities, want to create religions where they are seen as a god that is the creator of all life. And the horde is the opposite of that. Yeah. The horde is a portion of the audience that does not want to see any realities where one being is controlling all the thoughts, is controlling what people think, controlling what people do, because it's boring. You get one person in control, keeping everybody in a box of any kind. It limits the diversity. It limits the potential for new and interesting thoughts. And the horde, but just called them a political faction, but also it is their job as the de facto militant arm of the audience to make sure that things stay entertaining, to make sure that no one being is able to dominate any reality to the point that it's no fun for the other audience members that are existing in that reality. Because we're all part of the audience, but we're also all interacting, right? We're all like, I'm a member of the audience. All horde members are the member of the audience. Everyone listening to this at some point is a member of the audience. We are all connected to the all thing. And the horde is what is the thing that does its best to make sure that we are playable characters, that the audience is able to influence individual avatars. Hmm. See, it happens on minor levels too. And like on the horde level, it's, well, we don't, we do our best to prevent things like Christianity taking hold. or Islam or Judaism or any monotheistic religion where there's a one being that is, I control you and you will do what I say, you know, that kind of stuff. The horde is on this plane currently mostly non-physical beings, but just like any member of the audience, it is possible for them to incarnate. Yeah, I've seen that kind of thing before, Gavin. And, that's a microcosm of what happens on larger levels. It's not any fun. It's not any fun for anybody playing a game if there's somebody that's just, oh, I don't know if I'm using the word mogging right here. In fact, I know I'm not. It's no fun for anybody to play a game if there's somebody using unfair means of domination to control the board. And so the horde is there to make sure everything grooves. Make sure that there is a chance for everybody to play. And the horde as a thing is a non the yeah, they tend to be more astral based. Especially in realities that are this far off balance. Because our reality is way off balance. We are all messed up. We're focused on a particular aspect of the mental plane that we think is the material plane and just base reality. And this is just cut facts of how things are, but we're lying to ourselves. We are still stuck in a lie. You know, we are still stuck in a lie about this being practical, mundane, about, oh, well, you have to stop having fantastical thoughts and fantasies. No, that's not how it works. Reality doesn't fit in a box, the material plane. If you're actually talking about the material plane, is chaotic as fuck. It doesn't fit in your little boxes. Yeah, things tend to go a certain way, but every single little aspect of it, when you get down to the minutia, no two things are the same. They are all snowflakes. And that's why the people that want to put everything in boxes and want everything to be the same freak out so bad, right? About anything outside the norm, different religions, different sexualities, different genders, because it causes them a cognitive dissonance. Because inside, we all know it's chaos. We all know that no two things are the same. That's beautiful. That's what makes it good. If everything was the same, holy shit, that'd be boring. Holy shit, if every person you met had the same kind of opinions and the same personality. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Control freaks. That's exactly what it is. And the horde is those beings of the audience that have the ability to feel the interconnectedness of all things, feel that total connection to another being, and still be able to confront them. Still be able to create conflict and even remove them from realities if they need to. One could call them the mercenary arm of the audience. The thing I was before calling intergalactic, but I understand better now. I had a very intense interaction with the horde this week, which is ironic because that's the thing I've been working so hard for. I've been working so hard for that with the 10 years after May 5th, trying to get them to pull back again on May 5th, 2022. It's a couple of years ago, and they did do some cooperation with that. But then, out of nowhere, the other night, I have a dream, and they're here. I don't know fully what that means yet, but it does imply that they will begin to stop being simply non-physical beings and begin actually being able to incarnate on this planet. Now, some beings like that have been able to do so since 2012, right? My mind keeps jumping to the main idea from Elder Scroll 4 Oblivion DLC. The Shivering Isles, order and madness are cut from the same cloth. Indeed, they are. Um, though I would argue that order is madness. Freedom, karma, benevolence. Indeed, there are two laws. If the hordes are the enforcer of the law, there are two laws. Thou shalt groove, which means you better figure out a way to make things work for you. Thou shalt groove. You got to find your way. And the other is the law of reciprocity. Only one of them needs enforcing. Thou shalt groove enforces itself. It's a natural law of the universe. Either you find a way to groove or you don't. And if you don't, well, then, you know, better luck next life. Because by groove, I mean survive. I mean by being able to interact in a way that works. What would have stopped them from incarnating before? Resistance. Um, I've made no bones about the fact that in May 5th of 2012, we we removed from this reality the being at the center of the monotheistic religions. And you can see them freaking out with their head cut off right now. I mean, to me, it's real. I don't know for sure that it's real for everyone. Yeah, we discussed this maybe a week ago or more. I kept seeing these people in my dreams or astral travels, and they were very rebellious, like Gen X, had their own ways. Guess that's the horde then. Maybe it's because I keep using the S1 sigil. I'm glad to hear you've been using it. I have had to work on sort of tuning myself with S1. It's like it, he, she, the S1 has its own frequency vibe. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It does take work. It takes repetition. The more you work with it, the more you're going to get into it, the more you're going to feel it. And yeah, I mean, because of my own associations, they tend to look like a bunch of freaking hippies to me. But that's because, like, my life before this one had a profound impact and deep resonance in me. I really enjoyed being a hippie. Yeah, honestly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Coming from a Gen Xer, indeed. Yeah, I mean, it is a Gen X kind of vibe, I suppose. At least that's, how I perceive it. I figured you were a Unigriffin. I figured. We're Gen X is, I don't know. I don't know what I want to say there. But anyways, so I feel like since we've gotten on to the Horde stuff already, I don't know, I didn't even title us anything about the Horde. We'll get to this next. We'll keep on that for a moment. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, I already told about how I made this pipe. Working on. I'm probably gonna. I think I made the bowl a little too big. Gonna have to rework that. Okay, so where was I? Ha, nice, Gavin. I used to call myself the hippogoth. But like I said, I really modern hippies from this generation, a lot of them are really super vegan and stuff. It's a little different, but I really enjoyed being a hippie last time around. Anyways, so I had that dream with the horde, and there was some discussion of us not seeing each other properly during the dream, which was interesting. And then I woke up, right? And that was the main thing of the dream is the horde is here. We are not seeing each other properly. There's still confusion in perception. So I'm up in the morning, having my morning smokes, getting enough nicotine and THC in my system so I can think straight. I know that's makes me sound like some kind of stoner, right? Not gonna say I'm not, but you should see what I'm like when I don't when I don't have it. I get way more of the loss of focus and lack of memory. Anyways, I'm smoking enough to where I can think straight about the day. And sometimes I just have this need to go and get a few certain items. We talked about my bone scalpel before. I needed very specific things. I needed the bone scalpel itself, which I don't have here. That is a thing I use for cord cuttings. That was taught to me by Horde technology. Like I actually very specifically had a dream about what bone I was going to find in the morning because it was actually honestly it was one of my dog's bones. But they said, okay, I've enchanted this piece of bone. I need you to pick it up and do these specific things to it and make it this thing. And then from there, it's going to be a bone scalpel. And this is what you're going to do with it. This is how you're going to make it. This is how you're going to create the battery that's connected to it. Like the whole thing was spelled out for me. And then I understood to make it. But also, I understood that I was supposed to make my own. And we've talked about Noctera before. It's connected mostly to potatoes rather than a crystal garden like the original. But anyways, I get this feeling in the morning that I need to get the thing that they taught me to make. Then I need to get the thing that I made from the technology that they taught me. Right? So there's the bone scalpel. That I'm the one that put it together, but they made it. Right? And this is the thing that I learned to make from the things that they taught me. And then I needed. Oh, I thought she was right here. There she is. Sister Shiv. This is another thing that I was kind of given instructions on how to make. Well, I very much was given instructions on how to make the type of wand. But it is also one of the few actual weapons on this planet. I don't know what they mean by that. It's pretty pokey. I can definitely do some cool magic stuff with this. This is a very powerful wand, but they were like, be careful with that. It's one of the very few actual weapons on this planet. What I was told when I finally made the thing. I'm not going to get into everything about how I made this because, well, it was quite the process, and not all of it. Yeah, I can't talk about everything that went into making that. I saw these people. I guess they're the Horde, and they would hack stuff, and they were very funny and jokesters, like hackers. They laughed at anything serious or rules. It very much so. It sounds like specifically you were dealing with the what would I call them? Because they're even amongst the horde. There's different little like cliques. Um, you're with the scientist guys. Like I don't know what to call them. A lot of them, some of them appear. A lot of them appear to me as gnomes. Grax will often be amongst them when he's many, because there's Grax. He's a horde member that is. He can either be a giant that likes to build architecture, or he can be many gnomes that are into all kinds of different tech. Same guy, but he can be a whole bunch of little gnomes working at once, making like gadgets, or he can be one big giant dude and he's very concerned with architecture. But anyways, so I needed this, which is another thing they helped me make. And then I needed a circle, which I used this, which I made out of a tree. If you go to the Rome Stage channel, you can see me chopping down the tree that I made this out of. It's this bark woven together. But this was the saddle that I used, or a circle. And then yeah, it's a group of people. They keep showing up in these tunnels or subways or airports, and I keep ending up in when my body is sleeping, but it's way more real than a regular dream. Oh, wow. Yeah, that is actually quite interesting. I have had myself many dreams with them very same people where we're often traveling. There's a lot of traveling going on. Not so much now because we've kind of reached a destination, but it sounds like they're bringing you somewhere. There's an understanding that comes and the learning that comes with that journey. Wait, was the two people I saw distracting me from exploring the place I actually traveled to talking about TTRPG stuff was a part of the horde? I mean, I couldn't say for sure. I know I'm in the middle of a story, but I do have to do my first intermission now. I'll be right back. Okay, I returned. Hey, Kitty Stewart. Oh, hi. Hi. I think I know who you are. Okay, so we were in the middle of the story then. So I made the circle I made a while ago. Actually, it was just that you need a circle, and it was giving me this thing of like bark twisted together when I took a rope. Yeah, I thought that's who you were. Good to see you. I'm glad you're on here. Um, so yeah, it looked like they were talking about rope, but then I come in here and there it is, the woven branches in a circle, right? I was like, okay, that must be what they mean. So I grab that, I take the things, I go out into the yard like they want me to, and I put the circle on the ground, and I stab Sister Shiv into the ground, into the circle, like inside the circle, like through one of the holes in the weaving of the nest, which I'm going to hold up one more time. Okay. So, um, like I said, so I stabbed the thing in there, and we started connecting, and it's like kind of putting that nest as a part of like my astral platform, but not just my astral platform, but similar, right? It wasn't my astral platform, but it was like connecting a platform to that moment. And we connected, and there was a thing, and they showed me the sigil, which I didn't write down for a day and a half, but I had Felix draw it a little better. Oh, hold on. What's going on here? There we are. This is the sigil that they showed me to connect with them in the future. We're going to be talking about that. Like, as I understand more about how we're supposed to be interacting with the sigil, we are definitely going to be talking more about that. But they showed me the sigil, and then I stepped off of the platform, pulled Sister Shiv out from the platform of the nest, and then stuck it directly into the ground to mark the reality and planet that I'm in. Yes, they drew that particular one under my instruction, but I mean, Felix is an artist. They're a tattoo artist. Like, they do some incredible drawings and paintings as well, but their main focus is with tattoos, and they're amazing. I feel like this simple tattoo here doesn't do justice, but they actually did do that for me on my birthday this year. Okay, I think I missed something up here. Oh, where did he go? Have you ever noticed a large mass of negative entities? Yeah, I mean, that has happened in the past. I'm not quite sure. I'll be consecrating my new wand. Very cool. Yes, Felix's work is amazing. Yes, I'm very proud that my spouse is able to do such cool work. Honestly, I got a huge "Punk's Not Dead" tattoo on my bed with the exploited. Yes, we're gonna have quite the anniversary celebration tomorrow. I'm rather excited about it, honestly. Married for a year. Oh, on your back. Okay, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. Sorry, I wasn't able to. Outside anywhere besides YouTube, where it gives me the chance to proofread in a thorough way. I speak I'm all typos. I am all typos. Anybody that knows me on Facebook knows that. 34 years married. Hell yeah. Very cool. I never thought I was going to get married. And one thing that young me was right about is I said, I'm never going to marry a woman. I didn't. I married a Felix at the age of 47. But thank you, Kitty. Thank you. It is certainly part of what hides me from the Zuckbot algorithms. You know, like I can't get in trouble for what I'm saying if I've misspelled every other word. The AI hasn't caught on yet. Yeah, I had no idea that I would wind up married. If you would ask me 3 years ago if I was ever going to get married, I would have told you, hell no. Never. In fact, Felix and I, when we first got together, time I come up here, we very carefully discussed how me ever living here was completely off the table. And I was like, no, I agree. I don't want to live with a partner or any of that. And here I am. Yeah, there's been a lot of cluster fuckery, is what I will say to that. Is it just me, or shorta the greater energy of things been feeling low and just insane as of late? There's a clusterfuck of madness. We are watching an entire system collapse. You know, I don't know how else to say it. I'm trying to think of but well, somebody went and killed God, and everything has gone mad since. I mean, if I'm not crazier than hell. Oh boy, I seem to have lost my lighter and my pipe. Ah, pipe, marijuana. There we are. I mean, like I say, there's a trend. There's a cross reference of realities. I don't know what the heck. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to discuss about the whole thing with contacting the horde. I know I titled this one "Magical Theory and Sorcery Self Defense," and here I am talking about the horde all night. But all right, Gavin, it's good to see you. Happy solstice. Good health to you as well. Watching it all from New Zealand and then watching our current government is overwhelming. The need for unity and group projects is peaking. It is, Kitty. Very much so. I mean, that's the only you know, that's the thing that we need to learn to understand. It's a good defense to have allies. Indeed it is. Merry solstice. But this is the thing that we need to that we this is the lesson that the audience teaches us. If you understand what I mean, is that in the interconnectedness of the all thing, when we approach that moment of the audience, we are all connected. We are all individual perceptions. True individuality requires community. You do not have the power, the resources, everything that you need to truly be yourself without the support of the community around you. This is the ultimate lesson to be learned, is the paradox of individuality is that it cannot come without the connection to community. Yeah, you have all this people going talking about, oh, I'm a libertarian individualist, yada yada. And I mean, libertarian wasn't a bad word 10 years ago, but that's not the point. You know, all these people talking about, oh, well, I'm a hardcore individualist. And yeah, that's great. But you have to understand that part of that, the key factor to really be able to be an individual, is that community support. That's a social support network. We all need to prop each other up. We all need to give each other that helping hand that lets us be ourselves fully. Because being part of a community, being connected to others is part of who we are. If you don't connect to that, if you deny that part of yourself, then you're denying a part of the individual that you are, and that is not glorifying individuality. The self needs society to be the self. Now, there are those of us that are loners and introverts. I mean, I'm in that category myself. Even Felix and I, as much as we love each other, we need a few hours every day where we're alone. That doesn't mean that we don't seek connection, they don't want that love, that we don't want each other. And that also doesn't mean that we don't want to interact with the rest of the household and the community at large. Right? Even an introvert, even the most deepest introvert, has some desire to connect to a larger piece. A concept I've come across is we find our friends, family, we've found our other fractals from the same source. So when we get together, we can get higher energy things done and rise up together. Indeed. Indeed. I rather like that. It makes me think of I forget who said it, but find the shining ones. Find the other ones that are on that groove with you. Like right earlier, I talked about thou shalt groove. That's part of it. You got to, as some people just groove together. It does make it very convenient that our schedules are staggered. I'm much more nocturnal than you are, and this helps. You go to sleep, and then I go get my few hours, and then you wake up while I'm still asleep, and you get your few hours, and it works out. It works out quite well. Okay, so we're an hour in, and I've barely talked to anything about sorcery self-defense. But we did talk a bit. We did talk a bit there about the bubble, creating the bubble, and how that can be visualized and created and brought into a more permanent form with a sigil. Next, we're going to talk about banishing. And here we go. The thing I harp on at least once every live, I always bring it up. Personal sigil. Personal sigil is a very potent and powerful form of protection. And it is not just defense, it is also offense, right? Having a personal sigil creates complete Cohesion of the self. You have defined your form. And so when anything tries to affect or damage that form, holding to your sigil provides you defense, provides you a solid ground on which to stand. It gives you the higher ground. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. I didn't take a hit or nothing. I was just all of a sudden coughing. Oh boy, is it going to stop? Okay. Okay. Um, like Unit Griffin, I am very happy to hear you've been putting a lot of work into that because to me, this is one of the key aspects of the whole thing, right? Because, like I said, being a horde member, my whole thing is about getting everyone to be individual because we find that more interesting. We want as many new thoughts, new perspectives as possible. Um, the audience is in infinite, right? This is our highest selves. And so they've seen just about everything, right? And it's like you're watching your favorite movie and you've watched it for the 10th time. But this time, you get somebody else to watch it with you that's never seen it before. How much funner is that than watching it for the 10th time with people that have seen it 100 times or watching it by yourself? Getting to watch someone else's reactions to the things you have already processed is great, right? And so that's why this matters. That's why we want everybody as self aware as possible. Because no matter what happens to you, we've seen the horror, maybe not me, at least, certainly not in this aspect of myself, hasn't, but the audience, they've seen everything in some ways, right? So what they want is to watch you experience those things, to see how what you do, to see how you react, to see what your reaction is to the things they've already seen. Because even in infinites, there are patterns, there are repetitions. You know, you get bored of reruns. And the best thing you got is getting someone else to watch them that's never seen them before. And that is the highest value in all of reality. When we get to surfacing it all out, filtering it all out, and refining it all, what is the most value? New thoughts, unique reactions. This is what it's all about. Experience. Someone seeing things and experiencing them on an individual level. Okay, so once again, getting way off track, we're going to get back into the sorcery self-defense stuff. So we have the bubble, we have the sigil. Now we're talking about the personal sigil, and that is the first thing. Is it is a great defense. It is the thing that holds your will firm. right? But also, your sigil is the manifestation of your will in an astral form. And through this, not only can we, like I talked about last time, about pushing it forward, pushing your presence into a room and pushing all other presences out to banish anything that is against your will from an area. It can also be used exactly like a weapon. As in, when you are in an actual combat situation with an astral entity, you can strike them with your sigil or blast them with your sigil with the intent to break up their form. And it will do harm. It will push them out. It will push them away. It will push them to whatever it is that you're willing, because that's part of the point with the personal sigil, is that it is a vessel for your will. And so if you blast that into an astral being that is attacking, that is assaulting you in any way, it will push them back. It will push them out. And this also works with sleep paralysis. I've talked about this one before, but we'll talk about it again because it's one of the most common problems that people face these days is sleep paralysis. And sleep paralysis has a very easy solve. Now, there are two causes to sleep paralysis. One is if you are in a situation where something is preventing you from properly aligning with your body. This can happen. There are beings that feed on that moment, that feed on that connection. These are mostly etherical beings, like your shadow beings is the most common, though that can be fairly vague. Despite what I've said in the past about the shadow beings, when you're in this state of sleep paralysis, a lot of things can look like shadows, right? A lot of things you just see in the silhouette. That's even part of the whole thing with the shadow, with the actual shadow people, is the mystery of it. So easily mistaken. There are lots of things that can hag you that are not just the shadow people. But either way, it could be something feeding. Or it could be that your body and your soul are not properly realigning as you try to come back into your body from a dream that took place outside of your own personal mental realm inside of your brain. So, either way, it's the same solution. You visualize your personal sigil and then push it to one of your extremities. I like to use this finger. Push it out to the very tip of the finger. Imagine that sigil on the very tip of the finger, all that will pushed into that, and then broadcast it out. If there's any being that is trying to feast on you, that broadcasting out, that pushing of your presence forward will push them out and away. And that will make you be able to move your finger. If it's just a simple alignment issue, putting your personal sigil into the tip of your finger and broadcasting it out will realign you with your body, and then you can move your finger. And as soon as you can wiggle your finger, boom, you're out. If you're a fan of Kill Bill, you can make it your toe. You know, because it always makes me think of that part of Kill Bill where she's like, okay, wiggle your toe. And she wiggles her toe. And when she's able to wiggle her toe, she breaks out and is able to get her whole body. Same thing. I used to have some real issues with this. And that's what solved it. pushing my personal sigil into my pointer finger. Okay. I better slow down on that just a bit. I am feeling the fact that those are 10%. Right. Yeah. Speaking of which, I have to go do another intermission. Be back in just a moment. Okay. Oh my. I'm back. And the film is a saddening bore because she's lived it 10 times or more. I did see that before this, but I felt like this was a good time to acknowledge it. Because I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Is these beings that are in the infinitesimal outside of infinity have seen everything. I mean, there's going to be exceptions, there's oddities, but that's what they want. That's why they want everybody self aware, is because anyone who's self aware is experiencing on a level where they will have unique thoughts, they will have unique reactions, they will have individual interactions with reality. And every individual, well, first of all, it's very interesting to the audience member that is whose aspect is experiencing this moment. It's very interesting to them. But also, it's interesting to everyone else because it's like watching someone watch your favorite show, right? You've seen it 10 times or more. It's become a bore, even though you love it. But if you can subject your friend to it, even if they don't enjoy it, right? It's fun to watch them. I mean, even kind of crappy realities. It's like getting your friends to watch The Room, right? If you know that movie, The Room. Anyways, um, so we also, I didn't even finish telling the story. So even before we actually got into the thing, when I woke up and I was smoking, getting my head straight after the dream, they told me they wanted to know what was fun here. So obviously, the first thing I did was went and kissed my Felix. And they seemed to appreciate that that was fun, that was good. And then I showed him about throwing things, and I mostly had to work off of memory rather than immediate experience because I didn't know this was going to happen, or I would have had, like, if I'd known the audience was going to show up and be like, what's fun to experience here? Then I would have been a little more prepared for that. So we mostly had to work off of memory, but then I showed him about throwing things. Oh, I've spilt wine all over my rune board. I didn't close this well. We're gonna mix it together. That sounds like fun. Leave enough wine to cook with in the morning. Is that even enough? Eh, not really. I've been thinking about mixing those two together since this morning, so guess we'll give it a shot. It's good. It was better. It's just a dark sour. That was probably a mistake. Oh well. If we're gonna drink wine, might as well. Okay, so where was I? Slowing the heck down on that. Yeah. Sorcery, self-defense. We was talking about the horde and why it is valuable. I mean, I've been harping on that tonight. I've been harping on that a lot tonight about why freedom and true individuality is so important to the horde. And also, while we're on that, and this is vital understanding for all things. Communication is only possible amongst equals. True, effective communication. And so, with that in mind, we need to understand that these are not superior beings to us. Right? These are not, you are one of them. Everyone watching this video at this moment, everyone watching this video post production, you are a member of the audience, an equal member of the audience. We are all equals. This is why equality matters in all things. All things that perceive eventually become part of the audience. There are different aspects and different realities. Some pay very little attention to certain particular multiverses. But all of you that are here being able to see this are paying some attention to this multiverse, clearly. Or you wouldn't be here watching my YouTube video. And I'm getting way off track again as far as the sorcery self-defense goes. Okay. So we've talked about shielding, personal sigil, using the personal sigil as a weapon. Yes. Is this why people who work with deities end up with different answers from the same? I wish I could stop coughing. I'm sorry. Okay. Is this why people who work with deities end up with different answers from the same God? Because of the individual. Yes, very much so, but in more than one level, right? There's the level of individual experience, which is what we were just talking about, how each one of us is the center of the entire thing. So there's going to be a little bit of a malleability there when we're speaking with a god, and how they're connected to our particular rendition and experience of reality, right? But then there's also the levels of how we've been taught to experience things and what commonalities those share and who is affecting that God form within our current context. And I feel like hold on, I lost something there. I lost something important there. I'm going to read your question out loud again. Is this why people who work with deities end up with different answers from the same God? Because of the individual. And like I said, yes. But it's like that's the part I have clear answers to, right? That each individual has a different filter, has a different understanding, even of what that God is and how that's going to affect their perception of the communication that's taking place. And these parts I understand. These parts, what I don't simply kind of comprehend, I have been given answers to in a way. And that's where that is that each one of us is the center of the universe. And things radiate out from there according to our perspective, according to our perception. And so we're going to get the God that matches that frequency. We're going to get that aspect of that being once we get to the point that we are interacting with it. And that is whether it is a created being from people's belief or whether there's an actual self aware, independent being at the core of that being. But then there's also using those same words, a part that I don't understand completely. There's, hmm, this brings me back to what I wanted, this other thing I wanted to say about the horde. When I finally got to that moment, um, where I felt that I was actually like, hey, I'm talking with these people as clearly as I can for possibly the first time. The way I interacted with them, hey, Agatha, good to see you. The way that I interacted with them is like, okay, hi, here we are. This is my understanding. Because even in the dream, they were like, hey, you don't see the thing fully clearly, right? The dream that I had before all this happened, they were like, you know, this is the horde. We are the horde. The horde is here. But you don't see us correctly. There are barriers, there are confusions in our perceptions of each other. So then when I'm getting up, I'm like, okay, whoever you are, this is what I understand the best that I can. And that's where we're at. That's where we're always going to be at, no matter where things go, is that understanding things the best that we can, because we're all going to be seeing them from our own lens. Okay, that makes more sense. The concept of the God changes per individual filter. Yes, that's that's the best way I can explain it. Like it makes total sense, but then I don't understand it fully at the same time, right? It's simple once you accept how complex it is. And hopefully that makes sense. Oh, starting to slur my words already at this point. Hopefully that makes sense. Go look over here, make sure Felix hasn't told me I'm too drunk to continue. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that out loud. That's the part I'm supposed to keep secret. Anyways, um, yeah. So, personal sigil can be used as offense or defense. You can blast it out. You can form it into a weapon. Like in my case with my personal sigil, that's very easy. I literally just pick it up by the base and start swinging it around, you know? But if your personal sigil doesn't have a shape that is easily wieldable, you can hold it and turn it into whatever it is that you need. Okay, so now we're going to start talking a little bit about astral offense. As in the creation of astral weapons. We've talked before about the dream staff, but it doesn't need to be a staff, right? It can be anything. Anything that you see as a weapon, as a physical object. We're going to talk about dream first, because a lot of times when things are giving you real problems, 9 times out of 10, when people are talking to me about, yes, astral armory, 9 times out of 10, when people are telling me they're having trouble with a spirit or something messing with them, it's when they are asleep or when they are falling asleep. And so the dream staff is a perfect answer to this. Fall asleep with a stick, cuddle it like a teddy bear. All right, kitty. I'm glad you made it. I do this every Wednesday and Saturday around the same time. I have no idea what time that is in New Zealand, but I try to make it 8:30 Pacific time every Saturday and Wednesday. I'm I'm honestly am very glad that you were here. It that really made me happy. I think you are one of the shot. I see you as one of the shining ones. Okay, so let's see. Where was I going? Dream staffs. Yeah, it's as simple as taking an object like a staff to bed with you with the intention that it is a device. Your personal sigil will often solve most of these issues. Yes, it is very it is very schedulable. Every Wednesday and Saturday, 8:30 Pacific time is when, well, I try to make it 8:30. Especially today, I can't claim that. It was like 8:40 by the time I actually got on. I was here at 8 o'clock, right in front of the computer doing my thing, but I got so fixated on trying to make a thumbnail from the image of the horde sigil that I was given that it was like 8:29. I was like, oh man, because as awesome as the image that Felix gave me was, they were also right that it didn't pick up easily the way that they drew it with the shiny stuff. Didn't Was not picked up easily by my computer graphics art, whatever you want to call it, my Photoshop program. I don't know what you call these things, but yeah, it didn't pick up from it well, and I was like in the midst of erasing all this stuff very carefully and doing my best. Oh, absolutely, Felix is the technomancer. They are my technological savior on many occasions. Yeah, so we can take the object to sleep with us. That helps out a lot. That helped me immensely when I was a child, helped my brother when he reached that point where he was having something messing with him that he needed to yeah, me either, Agatha. I'm a bit of a luddite, you know. Not only am I not good at technology, I kind of miss the period where not being good at technology didn't matter. But I mean, I miss sense of Mia. So so yeah, we can use the personal sigil. We can use the staff, which literally just falling asleep with the thing. Um, One of the ones that a lot of us figure out as kids just automatically, stuffed animals. These are great tulpas. You get a stuffed animal, give it a name, give it a purpose of protecting you when you sleep, fall asleep holding the thing. It will protect you from anything that is going to try and bother you in that moment as you're falling asleep. Hmm. No, not since Maya. I was literally talking about the old weed. Like nowadays we have cannabis sativa or cannabis indica. Back in the day, like, you know, early 90s, but somewhere around 2000, like the late 2000s, that it switched from cannabis sativa, from sensimilla to cannabis sativa and cannabis indica, like the super weed we've got now. Before that, there was sensimilla, just cheap Mexican dirt weed, you know, smoked two joints to get high, but once you got there, it was deeper. It was a thing. I kind of missed. My point is that maybe I'm a bit nostalgic. Hmm. Yeah, that was funny. Actually, the weed now is so fucking strong. Like when my dad retired, right? He had a bunch of friends around his age, and my dad, as much as his job to give him a piss test once in a while, he did partake once in a while, so he knew about the change in weed. But then all of his buddies that were about his age started retiring and they were finally smoking again for the first time in like 30, 40 years, you know? And oh man, watching those old dudes getting blasted on the new weed for the first time was funnier than hell. Watching them old dudes taking 2 or 3 hits and just like, whoa, holy shit, I'm stoned. Hmm. Paraquat, I haven't heard that word in a long time. Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of shit that'll hey that'll happen when you're trying to illegalize a thing. You know, getting off subject again, but that's the thing about laws and government is when a government outlaws something, all they're really doing is saying they'll have no control over it. And then in the case of paraquat, they they freak out trying to then take back control over it. You know, so like in the case of paraquat, they legalize the substance marijuana, and then they go spray paraquat on a goddamn marijuana, and the people sell it anyways and get all damaged. You know, paraquat's a perfect example of control freaks gone wrong. Oh, wasn't time to grab that. Okay, so there were let's see. We talked about the personal sigils, how to use them for attack and defense. And beyond that, I believe the next subject or the next step up in escalation, we're still sticking with dealing with non physical beings now, is dealing with etheric beings. This next thing I'm about to say, hmm, I'm gonna say it, but I mean, it's not really that much of a secret. Anyways, it's just that certain beings have gotten upset about me talking about this in the past. But it's true of all etheric beings, not just any particular set of etheric beings. It's true of all of them. Sound can fuck them right up if you know the right sound and push it out with intent. Okay, so what do I mean by that? One in particular is brass bell. You know, this is like it's known in several different traditions with banishing. You make that brass bell ringing sound. You say, "Get the out, get out," and that sound with intent, poof, it will break an etheric form right up. There are ways for them to get around that. Quite frankly, I've worked with many Fey beings with how to get around this, right? Because I don't just work with people. I'm I don't know how to put this. Kind of an ambassador in a lot of ways, right? I'm not just talking to people on YouTube about magic. I also have some times where I'm interacting with etheric beings, trying to explain to them how to deal with us. And I forget what my point was there. I clearly lost something. I need to put this farther away from myself. Actually, I need to do an intermission again, real quick. Sorry about that, guys. Be right back. Okay, I've returned. I wasn't clear. Tal said they tried to legalize weed and they sprayed paraquat. Yeah, isn't paraquat the stuff that they sprayed on the marijuana back in the day to kill it, and then people sold it and then people gathered it and sold it anyways? Maybe I'm getting my yeah, it's a pesticide. It's a pesticide that the American government sprayed on the marijuana down in Mexico, figuring if they killed it, that people would that then it wouldn't be harvested. But then they harvested it and sold it anyways. People smoked the weed with the paraquat on it, and it messed them all up. Like people got sick, people like got permanently disabled from it. Yeah, that is actually quite true, Agatha. If you are a witch, sorcerer, etc., it will soon be punishable with time, etc. That's what I meant. Freedom of religion gone if you think you can have one of those illegal ones. They're trying to push it that way. I don't think in the end that the far right is going to get their way, but that is certainly what they would like. That is certainly what they would like. Oh, it is very much on the rise. Paganism is in so many forms is on the rise in Europe and in the Americas, both North and South. People are starting to realize that it is there's something beyond religion in and of itself. People are starting to realize that the fact that there is something beyond the physical realm and religion are not even necessarily connected. It was a lot. Did the Mexican government authorize the spraying, or was it like now blowing up drug boats? Um, I think it was like now with blowing up drug boats, but this was going on in the early '80s, and I was like 6, 7 years old, or I wasn't even that even, but I remember my parents talking about it. Like this is one of the things that Ronald Reagan did. I remember my mom and dad talking about it when I was a kid, but I didn't understand all the things at the time. Like they had a nut grinder that I stole from them and started grinding nuts with. And I didn't realize that I had stolen their grinder till I was like 17, 18 years old. I was like, oh man, look what I did to my parents when I was a kid. But they had a little nut grinder and they left it out one day and I found it and I put nuts in it, started grinding it and making my own homemade peanut butter. I watched some people crying with tears and sobs to be able to sing songs to Poseidon again in Greece. Yeah, I mean it is a beautiful thing. We are, as much as the world is looking horrific right now, these are the death throes of the control freaks. These are the death throes of the old world. And yes, they managed to destroy a lot of the planet in the wake, and they're continuing to do so. But this was their ending. Yes, Agatha, Ronald Reagan. Yes, I took their damn grinder and started making peanut butter with it. I was like 8, 9 years old, something like that. When I came outside, I came out of my room one day and sitting in the kitchen was this thing that looked to me like obviously I'm supposed to grind peanuts with this, and I just ran over and grabbed the peanuts because always have peanuts when I was a kid. I grabbed grabbed a bunch of peanuts and sat there and was making myself peanut butter. My parents come out, they're like, oh no. I remember them asking me about it, but at the time I didn't realize how upset, like how concerned they were, why they'd ask me so many questions about me and the nut grinder. But I loved that thing when I was a kid, man. I made homemade peanut butter out of it with it. Oh, I'm not on board with animal sacrifices. Um, I thought that's a very complicated issue. I'm not on board with anything being killed and then its meat not being eaten. That's what I will say about that. Um, if those things are done in connection with each other, that changes it. But like it's a very complicated issue. And like I said, I certainly don't believe that anything should be killed as a waste. Anytime any death occurs, there should be a recycling, a retaking. I mean, there is, whether we want it to be or not. If it's us that eat the flesh of the thing that died or the bacteria that eats it, it's gonna happen. But, anyways, so we've gone through the idea of the personal sigil. Yes, respect. Respect is absolutely vital in any of it. If I almost said even if, but especially if you are taking the life of something which you were going to eat. Because that's part of the deal in this reality that we live in. No matter what you do, if it's plant or animal, you're going to eat something that was once alive. That's part of the deal. But to treat those things with respect, to provide as much comfort as you can to those things that you consume. This is the most respect you can possibly give. You should treat those things with respect. But, anyways, I'm once again getting off of the subject. Are the control freaks going to outlive us, though? Mine's lost or no? I don't think so. I think that, like I say, these are the death throes. These are the death throes of the old world. You know, no matter how it is that it's actually coming about, people are stepping away from those monotheistic ideals. People are stepping away from those boxes that they were placed in. People are, well, at the moment, going through the late stages of nihilism. And as a society, we are on the edge of embracing absurdity. We are on the edge of understanding that the fact that there is no inherent value in the universe is not a bad thing, but it is the blank slate upon which we can draw our will. I feel slaughter must be done respectfully because you're taking its life and taking it into yourself and others humanely and not wasted. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with this 110%. There is, speaking as someone who has hunted, who has fished, who has taken the life of things that I am going to eat, there is a flow and momentum to this. There is a connection to this cycle. That is why I am drawn to this thing, is to feel human again, rather than connect, rather than pulled out from and drawn away from the things that are given are giving me life. But to grow a plant and eat the fruit of that plant, to eat the vegetables, to grow peas and eat the pods, to grow radishes and eat the roots, however you do it, that is still in interacting with the cycle. To harvest your own vegetables, to go out into the woods and forage for berries or mushrooms or whatever it is that you know is connected to you, whatever it is that is, you know, don't go out and eat random mushrooms. Go out and eat what is safe for you to eat. This is a connection to the cycle. This is a connection and return to that what it is that actually means to be human. Do you ever fear that sacramental ethnogens use lowers our ability to physically protect ourselves during our practice? Um, Possibly. Depends on how you respond to the ethnogen in question. We're 2 hours into the live and I haven't even gotten into the physical aspects, and I brought a bunch of props for that part. But I think that it depends on the ethnogen in question and your reaction to it as an individual. For myself, um, the use of cannabis sativa, in particular, at this point in our cycle of ethnogens, since Ensamia isn't really a thing anymore, allows me to be more interested in reality and therefore makes me better at any interaction on a material realm. If you mean by physically protecting yourself, as in like someone attacking you on the material plane, which we're gonna get to that at some point. Um, it depends. Too much alcohol will certainly make anyone unable to physically defend themselves. Do you ever fear this? Oh, I already read that. See, there's my point. I touched the alcohol once again, one more time, and I'm already reading the comments twice. Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, so um, we're still on the astral planes discussion about protection and sorcery self defense. And we've talked about using the personal sigil and using the bubble before that and the different manifestations of that. We've also talked a bit about the dream catchers. That is a very useful aspect on the high end of this for protection of any kind. A dream catcher isn't just something to catch nightmares. These are intended and created as ways to create a portal and filter for your space. These are perfect icons for protection. You simply weave the any circle with thread tied in knots will work, even if you don't know all the cool little different weavings. And yes, there are technically different um meanings to the different weavings. But in the end, this doesn't matter. It's like I was talking about last time about magical timing. If you can connect yourself to the moon, phases of the moon, do so. If you don't know the weavings for how to make a dream catcher properly, then don't worry about it. It's a circle. Inside the circle, you do not work, which with each knot, you are doing a statement of intent of what it is you want to allow into your space and fill the circle with that knot. There you go. You have a filter. You have a dream catcher that is going to keep out the things that you want kept out and allow in the things that you want allowed in. It is a filter, it is an opening, it is a way to create space. That's what a dream catcher is. And it is ideal for a lot of the things that we do. Okay, so let's see. What else do we want to talk about here? Actual astral combat. I've talked about this a few times recently, and like the bubble that I talked about earlier, it is mostly it is mostly about visualization and understanding your opponent. What you need to do is react to what comes towards you. If you are in a moment of combat with an astral being, you're going to have a visualization that comes at you. When this happens, you want to visualize the best response that you can. And that sounds very like easier said than done, yeah? But it is a response. Like if you visualize if you see something coming towards you, you want to open up and come back around. That is at least my most common response. Then you can allow the thing to come in and you're not directly forcing against that energy, but whatever it is that that you are seeing, it's like in the Disney's King Arthur with Mad Madam Mim and Merlin, where they keep switching forms back and forth. That's essentially what you're going to be doing. Or if you feel you are in a position to do so, this is one of them moments where, as they come in, like I said, you open yourself up, come back around, and encase them inside of you. And then it really is simply a matter of digesting them, which the easiest way to do this is to begin a vortex. To get a truly powerful vortex going, you do need to understand the concept of being the eye of the storm, which I've talked a bit about before, about being able to visualize two sides of a paradox at the same time. Being able to go Jeschel and Widdershins in your mind at the same time, right? And this paradox creates the spin that then begins the twirling of the vortex. And then we're going to be using centrifugal force upon the thing that we have captured within inside of us. And then if you have your personal sigil, which I know I harp on all the time, you use that to push down into the center of the vortex and visualize the pattern that was inside breaking apart. And as you're going down in, you should be able to see the pattern itself. And you want to look for cross sections. You want to look for any cross section that isn't perfectly aligned, and those are the easiest parts to break apart in the pattern of their form. Those parts that have the least structural integrity. You you attack at those points and pull and push the spiral into those. And as you break the thing apart, one of the things you absolutely want to remember is push their perception out. That's the one thing you cannot destroy in any way. All beings that perceive are a member of the audience. You can't actually destroy another member of the audience. It's not possible. Perception continues to perceive. Once you perceive, you can never leave. So you want to push that aspect, that self awareness of the other being outside of the rest of its form. Once you've separated its perception from its form, it's erased. It's essentially floating with doing nothing. It's not even doing anything but perceiving. So you've essentially destroyed it. Okay. So, I did want to talk some about the physical aspects of self-defense. Which I think we may come back to that. Not quite prepared for that tonight, I'm finding. Um, we will talk a little bit about that and the idea of, well, that these same rules apply. I know that seems odd for me to say that right off the bat, but I talked about the idea. I mean, I'm not telling you to eat people, obviously, but this idea of momentum. When someone pulls in a punch, you want to redirect it out and away and then come around. The one thing I am going to talk about tonight, I had a few things up here, but, well, frankly, I shouldn't have decided to drink as much alcohol as I have on a night where I was planning on doing this. You asked about the ethno. Bleh. You asked about the ethnogens earlier. Who was that asked that? Oh, I went way ahead of it. Oh, Nois Misato. Yeah, alcohol, if you feel like that counts as an ethnogen, certainly inhibits these things. But while I'm still halfway sane, we're going to talk about at least one of these things. Oh. Hold on. Might have been a little too high. This would be all right. Okay. So, bloopers are for members only. Ha! Good time to bring that up, love. Good time to bring that up. I am probably way too inebriated to be trying to demonstrate this. It is true. Okay. So, like I was saying, and it's an odd segue, and this is actually something from past life memory where I originally picked up the understanding of this concept. But when I was talking about before, and that's the segue into this, when the momentum of the being is coming at you, you want to wrap yourself around it and then come behind. This is one of the things, you know, this isn't something that if you get caught with a strap or a rope, you're going to be accused of having a weapon. It's a very simple item that, you know, everybody needs. So, there's a lot of knot work that can be done with this sort of thing. Um, I really feel like I should be tying this into sorcery more other than just, oh yeah, this is something I remember from a past life. But this is a very useful thing to know is that a rope is a very powerful form of self defense. Okay, so the energy is coming towards you, like someone is throwing a punch at you. What you would do, bring your arms forward until the rope touches the fist, the person that is coming at you, and just you take your arm that is on the opposite side, like the fist is coming here, touch it, wrap it around. And then immediately what is going to happen then is their arm is going to get wrapped up inside of the rope. And I know I just it seems like a total jump of subjects, but it is important. It is an useful thing to know, and it's one of the things I wanted to get to tonight. And then I'm having trouble segue because yes, I have drinking more than I probably should have tonight. So, anyways, this is like the cord you wear about your robe. Most nights I'll have the robe on. It's just there. And this is also a technique that can be used to understand how to keep energy between your hands, right? You can use this to keep that link between your hands so you can understand what you're doing when you're working with energy in the first place. Or you can just be a Gen Xer going to the goth club and doing like pretend Tai Chi to the rhythm of the music that you're listening to. But the technique itself is very, very simple. Simply need to have a good grip, both sides of the rope or strap, and then when the person throws the punch or even a kick, it's as simple as that. Up and down. Up, down. Put it up against their arm or their wrist, up, down, step behind. You now have their wrist tied up in a strap behind you, and you can elbow and bring them down to the ground. Or ideally, because I'm not actually advocating for violence here, really what you can do is get their wrist, step around, drop, step, run like hell. Off you go. And, I am having a little bit of trouble linking this back to sorcery self defense, but sorcerers do need to defend themselves, especially in the world we are in right now. And this is a very useful thing to know in the world we're living in right now. Especially if for our members that are living in the United States, this might come in handy. It's a very useful technique. You can use your belt, if it's on your waist, whatever, you don't need even anywhere near this much rope. But it's as simple as that. They throw the punch, bring your arms up, around, step to the side, drop that hand, run like hell. They're on the ground, laying there, because you basically judoed them. I don't know if any of you are familiar with jujitsu, but you have to grab the wrist, bring it around like that. You've done all of that, but with a rope. And you drop that hand, let this so you don't have them connected, run like hell. Okay. So that actually helped sober me up just a little. I'm going to do another intermission. Back in just a moment. Okay, I return. Just a moment. Fix the camera again. Okay. So unfortunately, I don't think we had anything really quite blooper reel worthy. Um, Now that I've gotten that out of my system, I want to talk a bit more about the astral aspects. I do have other physical combat advice to talk about, but maybe next time. Maybe next time we'll get a blooper. Um, I do have more actual combat stuff that I want to talk about, but I think I'm probably better off just doing that in a video. Like, there's no reason for that to be done in a live, especially not when when I've been drinking. I want to popping myself in the head or something, which I suppose could be fun, but you know, there are limits to what I can get away with. So, um, right back to actual spell work then. Now, what to do if you are being cursed? I think this is a area of particular interest. Yeah. And what a lot of people that maybe aren't typically on my lives may have come to this live looking for, or the come to the recording of. Either way, what to do if you are being cursed. First of all, don't panic. The worst thing you can possibly do when you realize someone is cursing you is get scared. 9 times out of 10, that's exactly the reaction they're hoping for. Certainly, what I am hoping, if I am cursing someone, this is why I always want them to know, because I want them to panic. I want them to get scared. I want them to feel fear. So, should you acknowledge that you were even being cursed? That depends. Basically, on whether dismissal is going to be enough to make it bounce off, or if it's going to need a closer investigation. So, for me, for example, I have my poison elbow. We've talked about that before. Point on my body like a chakra that absorbs any ill intent. Now, there's the for your own good stuff, like we talked about earlier. It can kind of that can be a complication in this because unfortunately, I developed the poison elbow long before I understood the that particular point that things that are well, it's for their own good for it's pretty intent based. I've done some working with since then to get it to be anything that's going to cause me harm, but it comes into my elbow. It makes me feel prick in my elbow whenever anything is going to harm me in that fashion. So anything that doesn't prick my elbow, I tend to try and just dismiss, ignore, let it bounce off, let it bounce off. But if it pricks my elbow, then it made it through that first layer of defense. And so now it will need to be dealt with. For me, the very first go to 9 times out of 10, unless something tells me that they are going to expect this. Well, actually, let me back up. I jumped a step. When I feel that prick, often I will pull it out and open it up. Yeah. And look to see what is occurring. Like from the prick of my elbow, I can actually pull it out, whatever that line of fate is. But this is pretty specific advice. Unless you've worked with your chakras enough to create a poison elbow, that advice isn't going to do you much good. So, what to do if you've been cursed? And I was supposed to talk about this before I talked about the bit with the material protection because they actually are connected. Spell chain. What is a spell chain? This is a way to follow a link from whatever has attached to you to its original location. Spell chain can be any link of chain that can be put into a circle. And what you do is once you accept that you have been cursed, you focus on your form. This can be done with the personal sigil if you have one. I'm constantly harping on the personal sigil. But if you don't have one, it can be done simply by focusing on yourself, sensing any links connected to you, anything you feel pulling on you or pushing into you. And then focus on that link, that feeling, and follow it by pulling the chain through your hands. And as you pull it through your hands, you will begin to feel through visualization or vibe, whatever sensation your body, mind, whatever your perception perceives it as, you will begin to feel what is in that link. And you follow that to its source. And then once you fold that entire thing, you have options. 9 times out of 10, that's when I will then do a stick breaking. I mean, I don't always necessarily use the chain because I'm doing it from my elbow, but we're going to the same place there. I'll just open up my hands. You can do this in the same way. If you're prepared for that, you don't have to use the spell chain. You can pull it up with your hands from wherever you feel the link and then open it up and look into that space in your hands the same way you would a crystal ball and follow it to its source. The spell chain is easier for a lot of people. For most people, the kinetic use of the spell chain, the feeling and understanding of that, it helps, right? Or you can just do the open hand. I call that glass hand because like looking through the looking glass, but through your hands. Either technique helps you get a full understanding of that line. Now, once you have that understanding of that line that is going to you, you can do a stick breaking on it by pulling it then into the stick. And then breaking it. Or if you feel like the case warrants it, depending on what you find on the other end of that line, whichever way you get there, take over that device and turn it to your will. Talked about that before as well. About how you can turn any curse pointed at you into an attack on whoever attempted to curse you by simply taking control of the device. Yes, rather like return to sender. Return to sender, though, is just pushing it back. With this, like if someone has made a puppet of you, especially, they have a little doll on their altar that represents you. Well, now they have something in their house that represents you. And you can use that to your advantage. They're the one that is already stated that that is its purpose. That is what it does. That is what it is. This is part of the reason I don't use puppets for people a lot of the time because if they figure that out and realize you have a puppet there and know how to respond to it, it's a problem. If I do use a puppet when I'm not directly working with it, I have it contained. Any representation of another person that you were trying to curse should be properly contained and held immobile anytime you were not directly working with it, in case they figure this out. Because it's really not that well known of a trick, but it does work astoundingly well. In fact, I have a spell. In fact, I have a story of something in this particular vein. Back home in Utah, there is a what do you want to call it? A store that I worked with the people there for a very short period of time. They decided that I upset them because my stuff that I was selling in the shop had spells on it, which, as far as I could tell, was the purpose of selling magical items is that they have spells on them. This upset them apparently. Everything you bring in here has spells on it. Well, yeah, of course it does. That's why I brought it in. And then they said that I brought chaos with me. And I'm like, well, yeah, I told you I was a coyote the day I walked in here. The first time I walked into that store, they looked at me and they said, well, you're something. What the hell are you? And I said, well, I'm a coyote. And then they got mad that I brought chaos into their store. It's ridiculous. Anyways, they um really liked what I had to say about a lot of stuff and encouraged me to come there to talk, to do little talks and stuff. And but at the same time, they were quite upset about the fact that I brought chaos into the store. My stuff had spells on it. Finally, they got to the point they were. I mean, I don't actually understand it. I don't actually understand what the hell their problem was. You know, they were just mad that I was real, I guess. But it got to the point where me and one of the guys that owns the shop are arguing, and like he thinks I'm some kind of idiot. In the middle of the argument, he's like, "Hey, do you want this bottle?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want that bottle." So I grabbed the bottle. I said, "Yeah, I'll take that. It's mine." And then I sat it back down, knowing what he was going to do was he was going to take the bottle and then not actually give it to me, but take it back and use it as a bottle to as the link to curse me with. So I took the bottle, holding it, thinking, okay, well, this is going to be the thing I'm going to use to return to sender to you. Whatever you do to me, I'm going to fucking blow back at you. And that poor guy, we happen to have, unbeknownst to me, mutual friends. And actually, I mean, I liked him. I don't know why he had to be such a jerk. But I didn't do anything to him. I didn't do anything to him. I just put in the bottle that, yeah, this is my bottle that I'm going to use to, like, as they handed it to me. They said, "Do you want this bottle?" "Yeah, I'll take this bottle. This is my bottle, and this bottle is going to make it do these. This bottle is going to do these things to you when you try to hurt me through it." I don't know why people gotta always do this kind of crap to each other. Honestly, we have mutual foes. The world at large is unkind to what those of us that know how to work in this world. It seems asinine for us to be harming each other. I don't know why we do it. And I mean, I could have, I'm like, oh, why did he do that? But I mean, I suppose I could have been like, okay, well, this bottle makes it so anything he tries to throw at me just goes down into the ground and away. But I don't know, following the law of reciprocity, do unto others as they do unto you. But debts don't always have to be claimed. I suppose I could have made a different choice. That's even more important, right? Learning lessons, finding the correct answer to things. I mean, it's too late in that case. Though I still don't get why they were mad at me for being the real thing. That's the only thing I can see. They were mad at me for being exactly who I said I was when I walked in the door. People are silly. Well, I shouldn't say silly because silly is a good thing. Part of absurdity, right? Anyways, um, we've touched very little magical theory. We have touched quite a bit on sorcery self defense, at least. Talked quite a bit about the horde. Um, I can't cover everything about self sorcery self defense in one video, obviously. Anyways, there was some stuff I talked quite a while ago about throwing the wit of a knife and some stuff along that aspect that we will be getting back into. It has been a long time since I've done anything with the sorcery self defense, but especially with the way the world is going, these things do need to be talked about. But when I went to demonstrate with the rope, this wasn't the best spot. This wasn't the best setup to demonstrate some of that stuff, anyways. And I don't think that necessarily needs to be on a live. So I'm going to take my time and do that correctly on a video rather than trying to drunkenly do it on a live and create a blooper reel, as entertaining as that might be. Um, let's see. I think at this point, we're going to go ahead and open the floor up to comments, questions, and concerns. Unless I think of another point that I want to make. Maybe make a bloopers reel as a year's end thing. The bloopers don't happen as often as you would think. But I do have a few bloopers that are members only reels. Oh, that's something else I wanted to talk about tonight. Right now it's members only, but um I do have a new tryout. And one thing that we were gonna I decided I was gonna do tonight was on the live give a preview for that. Right now it's technically members only, but those of you that stuck around this long, we're gonna do a share, like a video share, so you can see what's going on there. And then tomorrow I will open it up for everybody. Okay, let's see. Content, shorts. Okay, pause that. A triop. A triop is a creature that from the um hold on, I'm horrible with words. Well, not with words in general, but like the different ages. But anyways, pre-dinosaur, like the Triassic era, they haven't changed from. They're the same era as like trilobites. Might not be the Triassic. I'm horrible with those kind of things. It's not Triassic. It's starts with a C. If I was taking a test, I'd know. Anyways, okay, that's the one I want. So, yeah, the Triop is a creature from a very long time ago, earlier than the dinosaurs. Share screen. There we go. It's this thing.
But then I learned from.
Yeah, I full screen it. There we go. Where'd he go? Apparently, that I probably should have edited the video a bit. There he is. So this is a triop. They are a type of being that most of the time replicates through parthenogenesis, which is like a type of cloning that early creatures do. And I have been growing them under my sigil. I have waited to put him out till he was to this size because it seems like whenever I film them, there is a die off. So, how can I get away from this over to where I want to be? What's going on here? Yeah, so, like I said, there's been a bit of a die off. I can't seem to get over to where I can see what you guys are saying while this is in full screen mode. But yeah, I've been raising these under the. Oh, we're gonna hold on. What have I done? Okay. We're gonna go back over to the share for just a moment. Okay, so let's see how would I there. Okay. So anyways, yeah, this is the creature here. And he is, like I said, from the crustacean era, if I can remember. Hopefully that's correct. Anyways, they are growing up under the servitor sigil. This is actually a second generation hatched under the sigil with the intent that the servitor sigil will be the astral form that is incarnated into the egg that is hatched into the tank. And then once they pass, I use their corpse to reincarnate to reinflate their caw and create a servitor with the caw aspect of this trial. So I don't usually give them a name till they pass. And like I said, I don't it seems like they pass not long after I film them and put those public. So I've waited until he's gotten this big. He's almost 5 centimeters now. He's like 3.5 inches long almost. Well, not quite. He's like, I don't know, maybe 3 inches long. And I've had some pretty good success with those in the past. Hold on, I gotta go. I've had some pretty good success with those in the past, but the in that it works. As in, I've had the servitor sigil get incarnated into the triop. They're a very basic creature, not a lot going on there, so it's pretty easy to pick up on that frequency and get the servitor incarnated into the actual material being of the triop. But then the residual caw afterwards is a bit too simple to do much with. So that's kind of where I'm stuck at there. I had the first one, Herald of the Rocks, which if you go back far enough on my channel, you'll see a few things about Herald of the Rocks. He actually appeared at a friend of mine's house that I have a big connection with, just kind of skulking around in the background of her house on the astral plane. And like she had no idea that I even created it. And she called me, she's like, there's this thing at my house. What the heck, dude? Did I come solve this? And I get there and it's the damn triop that I've made into a ghost. Like reinflated its call spirit, its caw. And so I managed to bring it home. But that's like that same one actually was the one that I used to teach my dog Cootie how to see ghosts. She would track it as it just kind of randomly moved around, but I would never get it to really do anything. And then there was Landon the Least, and he didn't do very much. And then I've got my most recent ones, which was Evan the Evasive and Freddy the Finder. I've had a dream about Evan not long after his specimen bottle ran out of alcohol. And it was more just a play on words with even and Evan, Evan, even, Evan. just some kind of play on words thing. I don't know if it was just my autism acting up or what. And I haven't had much going on with Freddy the Finder at all. Got that new one that's growing now. We'll see where that goes. I am going to open that up to full access at some point tomorrow. So if you want to see it again, it'll be on my channel just as a short. Those of you that have membership, you may have already seen it because I put it members only just a couple hours ago. Yeah, it's getting pretty late. Good night, Black Una Griffin. I'm about to head out myself. Okay, so we will be picking up on the sorcery self-defense thing in future videos. Probably not going to try to pull that off in a live again. Like I said, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, now would be the time to go ahead and bring those out. Okay. Well then, dinner was looking awesome. I think it's time for me to go ahead and get going. Until next time, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tao.